Emma was the friend everyone could count on, the dependable shoulder to cry on, the problem solver, the listener. But over the years, she realized that the care and energy she poured into her relationships were rarely returned. Drained and unappreciated, Emma found herself stuck in one-sided friendships that left her feeling invisible. But when a moment of clarity struck, Emma decided it was time to reclaim her energy and prioritize balanced, supportive connections. Before we dive into Emma's inspiring journey of letting go of toxic patterns and discovering the beauty of reciprocal relationships, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on more empowering stories. Now, grab a cozy spot because let's jump into the story. Emma had always been the type of friend who gave more than she received. Ever since childhood, she was the one people leaned on when they needed something, a favor, advice, or just someone to listen to their troubles. Her phone never stayed silent for long. Friends, family, and even casual acquaintances seemed to sense Emma's generosity and willingness to help. And Emma was happy to oblige. She prided herself on being dependable, the kind of person others could count on. But over time, Emma began to notice something unsettling. Despite her unwavering support for others, very few people reciprocated when she needed them. When she was stressed or upset, the same friends who poured their hearts out to her often vanished. When she shared her triumphs, like landing a difficult project or completing a grueling half marathon, the enthusiasm she received was lukewarm at best. And when she stumbled, needing reassurance or encouragement, the silence was deafening. Emma's best friend, Melissa, was a perfect example. Over the years, Emma had stood by Melissa through countless breakups, family squabbles, and career dramas. She'd spent late nights on the phone offering advice and comfort, even when it meant sacrificing her own sleep. Emma knew every detail of Melissa's life, from her favorite childhood memories to her deepest insecurities. But the reverse wasn't true. Melissa often seemed distracted when Emma opened up about her struggles. And when Emma landed a long-awaited promotion at work, Melissa barely acknowledged it before steering the conversation back to her own issues. At first, Emma brushed these moments aside. Melissa is just busy, she told herself. She'll be there for me next time. But as time went on, Emma began to see a pattern. It wasn't just Melissa. Many of her friendships followed the same script. Emma gave and gave, and in return, she received little to nothing. The breaking point came on a chilly October evening. Emma had called Melissa to share some difficult news about her mother's health. Her mother had been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and the emotional toll was weighing heavily on Emma. But as she began to explain, Melissa interrupted her. "Oh no, that's tough. But listen, I've been dealing with so much stress at work lately. Let me tell you what happened today." The conversation quickly shifted to Melissa's grievances, leaving Emma feeling invisible and unheard. That night, Emma sat on her couch, staring at her phone in frustration. Why did she always feel so drained after talking to Melissa? Why did she pour so much energy into relationships that left her feeling empty? As she reflected, a harsh truth crystallized. Many of the people she considered friends were more like emotional leeches. They took and took but never gave back. Emma's realization was painful but liberating. She knew she couldn't keep living this way. She deserved relationships that were balanced and reciprocal, not ones that left her feeling used. And so, Emma made a decision. She was done pouring her energy into one-sided relationships. The next morning, Emma began to take action. She started by reevaluating her priorities. Who were the people in her life who truly cared for her, who made her feel valued and supported? Two names came to mind immediately. Sarah, a co-worker who always checked in on Emma's well-being, and Mia, her childhood friend who had been distant lately but had always been kind and thoughtful. Emma decided to focus on nurturing these connections instead of chasing after people who didn't appreciate her. Emma also set boundaries. She stopped responding immediately to every text or call, especially from friends who only reached out when they needed something. Instead of always being the one to initiate plans, she waited to see who would make the effort to reach out to her. At first, the shift felt strange and even uncomfortable. Emma had spent so many years prioritizing others that putting herself first felt selfish. But she reminded herself that self-care wasn't selfish. It was necessary. As expected, some of her friends noticed the change. Melissa was the first to call Emma out. "Hey," she said one evening, "why have you been so distant lately? Did I do something wrong?" For the first time, Emma decided to be honest. She explained how she had been feeling, how their friendship had become one-sided, how she often felt drained after their conversations, and how she needed more balance in her relationships. Melissa's reaction was defensive. "Are you serious, Emma? I've just been going through a lot. You're supposed to understand that. Isn't that what friends are for?" Melissa's words stung, but Emma stood her ground. She realized that Melissa's response only confirmed what she already knew. Melissa wasn't willing to change. Over the next few weeks, Emma's life began to shift. Without the constant demands of one-sided relationships, she found herself with more time and energy to devote to things she truly enjoyed. She started taking long walks in the park, something she'd always loved but rarely had time for. She signed up for a pottery class and discovered a passion for creating beautiful, imperfect pieces of art. And she reconnected with Sarah and Mia, two friendships that quickly grew stronger now that Emma had the capacity to invest in them. One afternoon, Emma and Sarah met for coffee at a cozy cafe. As they chatted and laughed, Emma realized how different this friendship felt compared to the one she had let go. With Sarah, there was no sense of obligation or guilt, no unspoken expectation that Emma had to fix everything. Their conversation flowed naturally, with both women sharing their joys and struggles equally. Mia, too, proved to be a source of quiet strength. When Emma shared her worries about her mother's illness, Mia listened intently and offered genuine words of comfort. She didn't try to make the conversation about herself or offer unsolicited advice. Instead, she simply sat with Emma in her pain, letting her know she wasn't alone. As Emma's social circle grew smaller, but more meaningful, she began to notice a profound change in herself. She felt lighter, freer, and more at peace. The constant sense of exhaustion that had plagued her for years was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. Emma had always known her energy was valuable, but now she was finally treating it that way. The journey wasn't without its challenges. Letting go of old friendships was painful, even when Emma knew it was the right thing to do. There were moments of doubt, times when she wondered if she was being too harsh or demanding. But in those moments, Emma reminded herself of how far she had come. She thought back to that October evening when she had felt so invisible, so drained, and she knew she never wanted to feel that way again. By the end of the year, Emma's life looked very different. Her days were filled with activities and people that brought her joy and fulfillment. She had created a small but strong support system, one built on mutual respect and care. And perhaps most importantly, Emma had learned to value herself. She no longer sought validation from people who couldn't or wouldn't give it. Instead, she found it within herself and in the balanced, healthy relationships she had cultivated. One crisp winter afternoon, Emma sat in the park, sipping hot cocoa and watching the world go by. She thought about how much she had changed over the past year. For so long, she had poured her energy into people who didn't see her worth. But now, she was surrounded by people who did. And in the process of letting go, Emma had found something even more precious: her own strength and peace. In that moment, Emma knew she had made the right choice. She had stopped wasting her energy on one-sided relationships. And in doing so, she had created a life that was lighter, brighter, and filled with love, both for herself and for the people who truly mattered. Moral of the story: your time and energy are precious. Prioritize relationships that are balanced and reciprocal, where mutual care and respect create a foundation of genuine connection. Letting go of one-sided relationships may be challenging, but it paves the way for personal growth, inner peace, and a stronger sense of self-worth. Value yourself enough to surround yourself with people who value you too.